We're back!
Yep, we're back. This is Joshua Keep.
And Michelle Keep.
Mm-hmm. And this is the... What do we even call this thing? It's a big long name.
I think it's the Sci-Fi... JM Keep Sci-Fi Fantasy Podcast, maybe?
Yeah, gotta catch it all in that title.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's snappy, easy to remember, because I'm pretty sure I fucked it up already. That's what you want in a good podcast title.
Yeah, you know, really easy to spread the word about it.
Yeah.
So we're back after a hiatus.
Of like half a year or so.
Yeah.
The last podcast that we recorded and didn't release was in the middle of winter, and we spent an hour bitching about how cold and miserable and exhausted we were. And then we took off to Cuba.
Yeah, we just took off to Cuba.
And then I didn't want to edit the podcast because it would depress me after sunny Cuba.
Yeah. It was depressing enough just coming back from Cuba. And everything down there was so sunny and colorful. I didn't know things could be so colorful.
And then we came back, and my coworker asked me why, in my comparison photo of Cuba's airport and St. John's airport, did I put the St. John's airport in black and white, and it wasn't.
No.
That's just how it looked.
Yeah, it's just the constant overcast, cloudiness and snow, dreary, dirty snow.
So now it's like around 30 or so, which I think is about, 70 plus in Fahrenheit for you crazy people.
I don't know what the hell it is. Those Americans, I don't know. It's warm.
It's warm. So we are comfortably nude right now as we podcast.
Oh, too much info.
Not enough info.
I guess, yeah. It is an erotica podcast. That's right. Damn it!
I forgot erotica in the podcast title. Sci-Fi Fantasy Erotica Podcast.
Yeah. This whole thing is a train wreck.
You're a train wreck.
Yeah. But it's about the temperature now here as it was in Cuba back in the March. Yes. Except Cuba then had a nice cool ocean breeze.
And everywhere had air conditioning. Since St. John's has summer for like 3 weeks, we don't have air conditioning anywhere.
Yeah. And
anywhere.
The windows aren't built to hold air conditioners, so you can't even put an air conditioner in the buildings here, we discovered, much to our chagrin.
Yeah. So that's perfect, but it only lasts like 3 weeks, so I am perfectly content to get many sunburns and make Josh worry about me getting sun cancer for the next week.
Sun cancer, yeah.
Sun cancer.
We only have one sun, honey. We can't let it get cancer.
Shut up.
This is important shit. This is bigger than global warming. Sun cancer.
Shut up.
Support the cause, people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
But you know who doesn't have to worry about sun cancer?
Who?
Those Cubans. Man, the place was amazing, and the people, we stayed at a resort across from a beach, and it was just like all the locals were just like amazingly gorgeous.
It was actually really freaky. I didn't know that it was so easy for guys to get 6-packs, apparently, because, like, everyone down there had a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Like, every single guy we saw, like, under the age of 40 had a 6-pack.
Yeah, it was nuts.
And, like, all of the girls were absolutely stunning as well, so I don't even understand.
That was great erotica inspiration fuel.
Yes.
Yeah. For us pasty foreigners who were there.
Yes.
Kept getting mistaken for Germans or French people.
And we got called Blanco on the beach.
We were very Blanco.
They just ran after us chanting, Blanco, Blanco, Blanco.
Yes, we had our own cheer squad.
Yeah, so, and then we left the beach because that was a little weird. We didn't want to intrude. But it was so cool. They made this, like, hot air balloon. I'm not sure what they were using, but somehow they managed to get this, like, homemade hot air balloon to, like, take off into the sky. So I was standing up like a total tourist taking pictures of this totally awesome thing.
Took pictures of every square inch of Cuba. Man.
Yeah, I took over 4,000 pictures of Cuba.
Yeah. She really wanted to display to me how grateful she was for that camera I bought her.
Yeah.
Over the holidays, winter. Yeah.
So, Cuba, for those of you who can go, I would recommend it. For those of you who can't,
Feel jealous. Yeah. Ha ha ha. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Now we're back. This place sucks.
It's alright. It's summer, so it's okay. But we're still talking about moving somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because even at the best of times, we're just kind of sick of this place.
Somewhere where you don't have to worry about the fucking sun getting cancer. I'm sick of this shit. So anyways. What?
What?
It has the same sun as us. Jeez.
Oh, I don't know.
We're gonna have to move to like a new solar system at least. So
Okay.
anyways. Moving on. Currently we've got a Dark Nest story bundle going on.
Yes.
Dark Erotica.
Yes.
For Dark Nest.
In support of Dark Nest.
Yeah.
All of the proceeds go towards maintaining the site. And going towards our wonderful and gracious host who always puts up with us and is wonderful. Thank you, Jason, if you're listening.
Yeah. He's looking to get new server hardware to improve the performance of the site. So we did the little bundle where a bunch of authors, published authors on Dark Nest, contributed their stories and their time free of charge. And the proceeds will go to, hopefully getting new servers.
Yeah. So please buy, I don't know, a couple copies for only $1 each. So buy one for yourself and then buy one for all your perverted friends.
Yeah, sickos.
Yeah, sickos.
It doesn't seem like much too, like $1. You might think, well, just donate money. Well, fine, you can donate money too, but
yes, we have links to donate money.
Yeah. The thing is, though, buying that book for $1 also bumps it up in ranking so that other people who have no interest in supporting Darkness see the bundle and maybe buy it because it just sounds interesting.
And if you leave a review, especially a 5-star review, it's very helpful. It makes it stand out more, and based on like the algorithms for Amazon's search functions and everything,
algorithms, sexy sounding.
Sexy algorithms. It ranks higher and it shows up higher under relevant searches. So if you look for like dark fantasy, the more people that buy the Dark Nest bundle, the higher it'll rank under dark fantasy.
Yeah.
So the more likely that people who are just interested in dark fantasy might find the book and then maybe join the site and contribute to the site that way, or contribute with the royalties that we get off of the book sale. Either way, it goes towards supporting Dark Nest, and we have a lot of awesome authors, as Josh said, who have contributed the time and the book, and we've had the cover artist commissioned off of Dark Nest.
Yeah.
We had the editor from Dark Nest. So, this is completely made in-house, and we're all really passionate about it, so
yeah.
Please
support
buy.
them. Yeah. And maybe you'll read some stuff by one of the authors, especially us.
Especially
and
us.
Just love it so much you want to go read some more.
Yeah.
Stop being helpful.
No. So, aside from the Dark Nest bundle, which is awesome and has like 7 stories and it's only $1, we've been actually putting out a fair few anthologies lately and found that we really like it. We really enjoy working with the other authors. There's a lot of great people that we've found since starting writing, and who are all very supportive of each other and who are so creative about different themes. So we've done a theme, one book called Love Charms, which was all paranormal romance. So everybody's different take on what that genre means to them. We've done other ones that are like Shifters, Beasts, and Monsters, which are erotic shorts based around shifters, beasts, and monsters.
Oh, twist.
Ooh. And, we've done a fair few of them. And I think it's a great deal for readers because they get to experience a bunch of different authors for a really low price. And it works out well for authors too, because then, you're being exposed to a lot of people who maybe they bought the book because they liked X author, but then they read your book and then now they love you too. So I think it's really one of the very beneficial things for both authors and readers. So we'll probably be doing a fair few of those in the future as well. So we always announce them on our newsletter. So make sure you're signed up for that.
Yeah, and if you're interested in the Dark Nest bundle, there's a big fat link to it right at the top of Dark Nest.
Yeah, and I'll put it in the links below as well.
Yeah.
Just in case.
You're so helpful.
I know. It's almost like I love being helpful.
Yeah, but how much have you donated to the Save the Sun from Cancer campaign?
I have donated at least $2 since I found out about it.
I haven't seen you take any money out. You don't have any pockets because you're naked. Don't lie. That
is unfair. I'm a woman. I have hidey holes.
Fair enough. You got me there.
Yes. That's all I got.
Yeah. You only got so many hidey holes, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, speaking of, publishing books and all that lovely stuff.
Speak up.
Speak up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Speaking up! As well as speaking of publishing and books, issues again with, censorship.
Yay! Censorship! Whee!
Yeah, as some of you are likely aware of, recently, Michelle and I had our publishing account
temporarily banned. Woo!
Yep, temporarily banned. It was one of those things where they changed the rules again without really telling us all that they had changed the rules.
Yeah, for the short form, basically last year, last October or so, they Amazon and their publishing division decided that they didn't want certain terms to be used in titles and they didn't want certain covers to be used. So they went through and they unpublished a lot of people's books. And then they sent them an email telling them that it was because of the title, the cover, or the description. And that in order to have their book put back on sale, that they had to make changes to those things. So in April, we had one of our books blocked. And I figured this was because we used one of the block terms in the title. And so I went back and I changed the title and I republished it. But what Amazon didn't tell anybody was that no longer were they letting people change the title, description, and cover and republishing it. That is now a bannable offense, whereas before it was just something that they asked you to do. Yeah, they asked you to do it. So apparently this is how it used to be, but we never had any problems with getting our stuff, blocked before, so we didn't know. So we got suspended, and we were asked to basically say that we would agree to their rules, especially their rules regarding obscenity, which is literally stated as about what you would expect.
Yeah.
What we find offensive is about what you would expect. So
It's apparently not about what I would expect, because I don't find much offensive personally.
no, personally, I find all fiction to be perfectly fine, but that might just be me.
I mean, on a very personal basis, not something I'm against and want to ban or something, but I tend to find the typical romance plot of a woman getting forced and then liking it, I kind of find that offensive.
Yeah.
In a personal way. I'm not going to judge anybody else's tastes, but I find that kind of offensive. When I talk about, when we write stories of a woman or anyone being forced, I don't like to glamorize it, and I don't like to build the perpetrator up as some redeemed person who's not that bad, he just couldn't help himself. I don't like that so much. I find that kind of offensive. But apparently publishers don't really agree with us.
Yeah. I was actually talking about that today at work. I was trying to describe Hannibal to a coworker who is religious. The show Hannibal is religious, and he hasn't, seen it. So, and apparently he hasn't seen Silence of the Lambs and didn't have anything to go on.
How have you not seen Silence
I don't know.
It's a classic.
I know, but he's religious. He doesn't want to watch that type of stuff. So, that's fine. So, I was describing this character who is a serial killer and is very smart and cunning. And he asked if it was a show that my other coworkers had talked about, and no, they were talking about Dexter. So I was explaining that I didn't want to watch Dexter, and I didn't like the idea of Dexter because Dexter excuses and allows for Dexter to be the person that you're rooting for. You want him to get away with it. You want him to get away with murder. You want him to hurt people. You want him to, exact this justice. It's basically vigilante porn. And with Hannibal, Hannibal is a bad guy. And you might still root for him, but in the end that what he's doing is irredeemable. And there's nothing good about it. He's bad, and he's evil, and you might still cheer for him, but you don't excuse his behavior because, look how fucking suave he is.
Yeah, the show has a way of kind of stringing you along at times where, it's that quote that Hannibal says, whenever possible, eat the rude. And it's this idea of, it's that very, in this day and age, I think a lot of people love to applaud that, oh yes, that sort of screw with people who get on your nerves sort of thing, or you don't like, or a bad influence on society, yeah, and it's great, you build up Hannibal and you think he's this great guy because he only goes after, jerks and stuff like that, but then the show kind of throws a twist at you. It's just no, that's not who he is, that's just, he's full of shit, he's a bad, awful person.
Yeah.
He does bad, awful things to people who he has no reason to do anything bad or awful to. His whole eat the rude thing or whatever that, that quote was, was bullshit.
Yeah. And so there isn't this idea, you can root for the bad guy and know he's the bad guy, and I think it takes good writing to be able to write a character that is unequivocally evil and still have the audience side with them. Whereas with Dexter, you kind of side with him because he's
supposedly. We haven't watched this, so you're just
supposedly.
This
is just my bullshitting. I don't know. This is what I've heard.
I don't endorse any of this, by the way. So if you're going to have a fit, if you're a Dexter fan, direct it at her.
Yeah, no, please direct all your hate at me over Dexter because I haven't even watched the show. So
not a single episode. Not
even a preview. I don't think. I think I read the Wikipedia plot synopsis of a couple or whatever.
Oh, okay. So you're practically an expert.
Yeah, pretty much. So anyways, this is just the impression that I get, and this is why I haven't watched Dexter, is because the idea of, excusing a serial killer's actions because he's doing it for a good reason kind of skeeves me out. Yeah. So yeah, and it's the same with the romance novels. I don't like the idea of redeeming these male...
Rapists.
Yeah, these rapists. I mean, like, if you're fucking working as, like, a sex slaver, like, no matter how noble or whatever you want me to believe that your fucking, like, cause is, like, you're still fucking hurting people, and it's selfish, right? It skeeves me out, because there's a lot of people who are like that, who excuse their behaviors because, oh, I have reasons, and it's creepy and it's weird, and like...
There was one case just recently, and it's nothing peculiar, but it was one British judge in a case, a man was found guilty of raping a woman, and the judge then overturned his sentencing, saying that...
Oh, you're not a typical rapist,
yes, he said,
though?
You're not a typical rapist. That,
you couldn't help yourself.
He couldn't help himself. And so it's...
She was just... You took a fancy to her, and she, like, passed out in front of you. What were you supposed to do? Be a decent person? You can't help yourself, but you're not a rapist. Not a real rapist. Like, it's that idea that's creepy as fuck.
Yeah. And so...
I want my rapists to be rapists, and they're irredeemable, and, you know, what they do is inexcusable, and you can like them despite of it, but, like, I don't want you to like them because of it. I don't want you to like them because of, you know, you think that he has cause to do it.
Yeah.
And,
He's a good guy who just can't help himself.
Yeah, and...
Because to me, the two things are mutually exclusive.
Yeah. So, I mean, to each their own... And far be it from me, you know, I write a lot of stuff, but I'm sure everybody kind of takes something different out of our writing. And if you take something objectionable out of our writing, then, you know, we all have different viewpoints and we all have different ways of interpreting things. But I've never seen any of our bad characters as being particularly, you know, I don't see their bad behaviors as being excused just because... justified just because they do good things as well. Yeah. I think we went out and saw Maleficent the other day, and, you know, basically it ended with, you know...
Spoiler warning, I guess.
Spoilers! Like, plug your ears if you haven't seen Maleficent.
Hide the kids!
Hide the children. Yeah. Probably...
Shoot your neighbors.
You should probably be hiding the kids anyways. Like, we told you we're naked. Like,
wow, yeah. Why
really,
do you have kids in here? You sick.
Yeah, like, really bad parenting. Anyways.
Assuming you're a parent.
Yeah. Why do you have kids otherwise? Listen, not my business. Not my business. Anyways. Maleficent ends with, you know, them saying that she is both a hero and a villain. And that we have the potential to be both. And I think that's how I approach writing. And how I like to approach our characters. Is that they can be both. They can do bad things. And they can do good things. And they might not necessarily cancel each other out. They might be a bit contradictory at times. And hypocritical. But...
Yeah, like Maleficent seemed a story about putting the character in a whole light where, you know, to show that she's not the bad character. She reacted to circumstances in a way that was completely understandable, if bad at times.
Yeah.
And that's not the kind of light I would like to shed on, you know, an act as horrible and heinous as, you know, rape.
Yeah.
A rapist.
Yeah. So obviously this is a hot topic for us both, but... I think we're more passionate about it because of the fact that we do write it, and...
Yeah, we write dark erotica.
Yeah, we write fucked up stuff, and I guess a lot of that leads to us trying to explain our motivations behind it, and...
Some people might see it as excusing, but, you know, it's an issue very important to us both.
And I think, I mean, rape fantasies... are one of the top fantasies for women, and I think a lot of that just simply comes down to the fact that a lot of us are terrified of it, and it has such power over us, and it is such a, you know, dominating force, especially in certain cities, especially in certain neighborhoods, especially in certain, places and cultures and time and around certain, institutions. It becomes something that you end up thinking about a lot or having at the back of your mind a lot. So it becomes something incredibly powerful. And things that become that powerful can sometimes manifest themselves in very, I don't want to say inappropriate, but it can sometimes seem inappropriate. I mean, it seems inappropriate to say, like, oh, I'm so afraid of rape that the fantasy of it turns me on. But, I mean, it happens a lot in, in BDSM communities, a fair often time. It's as a way to cope with abuse or fear or emotional problems. And I mean, it's a perfectly healthy coping mechanism. And
well, for me personally, I know writing about certain things was it was this catharsis. Was a release sort of thing, dealing with certain issues. But,
it's a way of confronting things that that frighten you, and hold such power over you. If you write about it or fantasize about it or put it into like a BDSM scene or work through it with your like sexual partner or romantic partner, I mean, it's a way of taking some power back for yourself.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's fucked up. We're all fucked up in our own ways, I guess, but that's one of the things that's always kind of...
I know for me personally, when it comes to things that were right, it's like, the things that I often dislike, avoid, or fear the most in real life are the things I will enjoy so much on a fantasy imagination level.
Yeah.
I mean, like my biggest kink turn-ons, what is like
fucking pregnancy.
Oh my god. Like, wow, is there nothing I don't know I can think of, on a day-to-day basis that would terrify me more than finding out I knocked her up?
Yep, but fantasy-wise, that is his number one turn-on. So.
Oh, it's a big, yeah. And so many, for me, everything I pretty much write about is stuff that I just don't have an interest in doing in real life at all.
Yeah, and me neither, and, I think Josh has a hard time understanding that sometimes I write about things and don't necessarily want it in real life, but...
Sometimes you do, though, and that confuses me.
Yeah, but then sometimes I'm in the mood, sometimes I'm not in the mood. I'm fickle, leave me alone.
You are fickle. But I won't leave you alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So...
We got kind of off topic there.
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
We were talking about
Hannibal.
Yeah, you were off the rails with the Hannibal talk. We were talking about censorship. And, the reason why we were banned, which...
Dark Erotica.
Wasn't even really about, the rape thing. I think it was on my mind in particular because another writer who is actually in the Darkness bundle, A. Vivian Vane, recently wrote a post about how some of her stuff was blocked from some sites, supposedly for containing rape. However,
she wrote a blog post about it on One-Handed Writers.
Yeah, it was a great post on One-Handed Writers. Talking about how her story was a slut for the state. About these women that were kind of voluntarily signed up for some program of becoming just big sluts for procreating.
So basically, in The Giver. What? That totally happened. That was their job. They got chosen for that job.
Yeah.
Well, they were breeders.
Yeah. Well, they volunteered.
Yeah.
But I just found the music because it's topical because they're making a movie of that. That's about the.
They are, which is not in black and white, and I am very disappointed.
Yeah, it seemed an odd choice.
It was a very big plot point.
Yeah, I guess modern audiences just won't be able to relate to black and white.
Yeah, Wizard of Oz. Anyways.
You're getting off topic. Wizard of Oz?
I know!
But yeah, her book was blocked from several sites for rape. However, it doesn't contain any, even by classic erotica romance standards.
Yeah, it was bimplification.
Yeah. Like, there are definitely some, like, as she herself said, that there's definitely issues of consent there, because even though they did volunteer for it, to have your mental state altered...
There would be consent issues in the real world, because, you know, in the real world, in most places, there's legislation that you cannot consent if you're under the influence, or if you are unable to give continuous enthusiastic consent. Like here in Canada, there was a ruling that a partner couldn't say, give consent before taking some sleeping pills. You know, they couldn't say, oh, I'm going to take these sleeping pills, you can have sex with me while I'm asleep, which is a big kink for a lot of people. Yeah. The Canadian courts ruled that you cannot consent like that. You cannot... have consensual sex if you cannot revoke consent at any point in time. So, and this is the real world. This isn't fucking fiction.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about stories here. I mean, you can write about murdering people all you want, and nobody questions that.
I'm not sure if any of you have read The Woman, but that is, like, the book I always go back to, because, like, I don't understand how Jack Ketchum can write these things and get away with it and be fine. And then, like, erotica authors, we can't write contemporary, like, love stories between step-siblings because that's too, like, taboo. But he can write about, like, torturing and raping a woman in front of his 14-year-old son as, like, his son jerks off, and this is all in detail. But just because it's fucking filed under horror,
if we had
it's
to write,
okay.
If we wrote something like that for erotica,
oh, yeah, that would be,
they'd
like...
put us in jail.
Yeah. Like, that would be... fucking off the chart.
Not only could we not sell it, but they would, they would throw us in jail here where we are for writing something like that.
Yeah, but as long as it's in horror and you have no connections to, like, traditional erotica and whatever, and you're through a traditional publisher, it's okay. That's messed up. That
brings up the other big point is, like, because, this thing with, like, Vivian Vane, like her book about, like, saying, is this an issue of consent? But it's not really, because if, like, supposedly, because that is a very nuanced approach to consent issues for a bookseller, if that's the case, which is fine. And like, because I'm not even saying I'm entirely against that idea. There is something to be said for the argument that maybe we need to, try to shape cultural views by,
And I'd love to have that conversation.
That's an interesting conversation to have. However, that's not what's going on here, of course, because, as we said, you can get much more heinous stuff, and not just, like, in the horror genre or other genres, but in erotica and romance. There are very, very clear and undeniable cases of rape going on in these stories.
Well, I mean, like, I know I always go back to it, but, like, V.C. Andrews is being sold to 12-year-olds, and it has incest, and it has rape, and those are the two defining characteristics of every V.C. Andrews book. And you can categorically say that because V.C. Andrews has been dead since she wrote the first series of her books. So all of the ghostwriters that have been writing after that have been sticking to her formula, which is all just like rape and incest, fucked up family matters, stuff like that. And this is being sold to 12-year-olds. Like, it is actually in the section for 12 and up in our local bookstore.
Yeah, but the thing that separates romance and erotica authors who write that very nasty stuff that gets up there no problem, and people like, our friend in the Darkness Bundle, Vivian Vane, we're small-time indie authors. Yeah. We don't have a publisher behind us.
We don't have that protection. And, I mean, it's great for some things because you can be a lot more experimental. Joshua and I would probably have a very difficult time finding a publisher who would be interested in, the fairly meager sales opportunities for fantasy erotica. There's not the huge market that there is for, like, self-help books or contemporary romance books, which are much easier to find a broad audience. And it's most important for publishers that there be that broad audience.
Yeah. They're always after the next 50 Shades of Grey or Hunger Games.
So they're not looking at these small niches of, you know, if you look at it and there's like 50,000 people who might like to buy a book, I mean, for an individual person, that'd be astounding. That'd be amazing. That would be a game changer.
We've sold tens of thousands of copies of books, but not on any single book.
Yeah. So, like, for 50,000 copies of, like, one book, that would be a game changer for one person. But for, like, you know...
Or for two.
Or for two.
Like us.
Like us. But for a big publisher, that would be peanuts. That would be not worth their time and their effort and their energy. So, having indie authors helps serve these niche categories and brings a lot more original and different content to booksellers. But at the same time, it's harder for us to protect ourselves when it comes down to certain content. We're going to be judged more heavily because we don't have the reputation of the publisher behind us. You know, if you look at, say, Alora's Cave, they can get away with some pretty nasty stories because they have a solid basis. You know, booksellers know who they're dealing with, what types of books they give out, how many sales they usually get, and that overall their stuff is of good quality.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm not unsympathetic to, you know, booksellers like Amazon, from their position that, like, you know, when they're dealing with publishers, they know who they're dealing with. If an issue comes up or whatever, they have a body they can go to work with. When, you know, Barnes & Noble or whatever other, you know, publisher goes to sell something, they have Amazon can have a pretty reasonable expectation of what that publisher is going to be putting out, the quality of it, the, you know, what they're going to be doing for the readers. For an indie author, well, they don't know if they're dealing with someone like us who's very passionate and committed to the project, you know, to what we're doing. You know, we want to play within the rules. We do. Mm-hmm. We want to be committed. We're in this for the long term. I do this full time, and I want my wife right here to be doing it full time with me. That is my dream. They can't tell right off the bat, you know, if they're dealing with, you know, us, people like us, or if they're dealing with someone who's just trying to make a quick cash grab, who probably doesn't even speak English, like, you know, as their first language, stealing some material off a website, poorly edited, and posting it up to just, you know, pump it out there and make some quick cash. Which
happens a lot, actually. So, you know, it's hard to... You just don't have that reputation. You don't have that starting point of negotiations. So it's a lot harder, and you're a lot easier to ignore when, you know, you complain about your treatment. They don't need you. I mean, if they were to lose... I mean, right now they're fighting with, what was it, Hatchet? Which, I mean, that's a lot of money on the line. That is a huge publisher, and they're fighting tooth and nail for that. Like, they're punishing Hatchet authors by recommending different books, not allowing their books up for sale, making it so that they aren't being delivered on quickly or on time. And this is one of, like, the biggest publishers in the world. So if Amazon's willing to fight them and punish them in order to try to get them to play within their rules and give them the royalties that they want, I mean, an indie author, they just don't have that chance.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not unsympathetic. You know, I've run a business of sorts for some time. I've done administrative sort of managerial tasks for time. And, you know, you come to understand from an organizational aspect just how complicated it can be to try and, you know, wrangle so many things. To deal with, you know, publishers is just a big cost-saving thing from their perspective. It is easier to do, you know, much more reliable. So, yeah, you know, I get it. It sucks for me, though.
Yeah, it really sucks. So, I mean, because of the fact that we were suspended, and because of the fact that we are treading on thin water, and, like, not even ice, we're on thin water. And
wow, we're talented to be
I
treading on water.
know, I know.
We got
but
moves
it's
like
thin
Jesus.
water.
Yeah.
It's just like muddy and gross.
Ew.
So because of that, we're not going to be pushing any boundaries, especially in regards to erotica and erotic shorts. So because
not our published work at the very least.
Yeah, I mean we're still gonna write it because this isn't just something that we're doing to make money. This is something we're doing because we love it.
Yeah, we love it.
And I mean we've been doing it since like 2006 or something. So
yeah,
we haven't made money at writing longer than we've made money at writing.
Yeah.
So by a long shot.
Oh yes, by a long shot.
But because we're trying to make this a career. For both of us, and because we still love writing erotic shorts, we've tried to come up with something that allows the best of both worlds, I guess, for both us and our readers.
Yeah, trying something. Trying to deal directly with our fans. Like, you may or may not be familiar with Patreon, but we have a Patreon page set up, and the way it works is that you can commit to supporting an artist for so much a month, like our starting. Well, you can pay whatever you want, but
yeah, you can pay whatever you want. We have a bunch of different tiers.
But like at a minimum of $5 a month, you'll get a short story from us
every month.
A dark erotic short story.
Yeah, and then as we get more patrons, as they're lovingly known, we're able to make more money per month, which means that we're able to give more back to writing every month. So
yeah, and if we make certain tier goals, then the pot gets sweetened, as it were.
Yeah, so if we make X amount, I can't remember offhand how much, but if after we make certain amounts, we're going to release a short story, and then after another amount, we're going to release a short story and a novella. After that, we're going to do something else. So you can contribute, I don't know, there's a bunch of different options, and for each option, as well as like the tier goals, I guess, you can also get other rewards. One of them is like a signed copy of all of our banned books from Amazon, or like an ebook copy of that, or a private chat with us for an hour.
Blah, blah, blah. Bunch of different things.
Bunch of different things. Check out the link in the comments.
And to shoot ourselves in the foot, if that doesn't work out, you'll probably see the occasional freebie on our site.
Yeah, we're probably going to be giving away freebies anyways, just because, I mean, we've been kind of taking a break from writing for the past couple weeks just to...
Since this all happened.
Yeah, it's been
stressful.
Depressing and stressful, really demoralizing. So we've just been taking a break from it and playing more video games and getting more inspiration. Watching Fringe.
Yeah.
And what else have we watched?
Some movies.
Watched a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Oh, we watched
Orange is the New
Orange is the New Black, which we both loved. House of Cards.
House of Cards. I like that.
Yeah.
I love that evil fucking couple.
Yeah.
They're great.
I like evil couples.
Evil
Our
couples
ISP kind of hates us now because we use Netflix, I guess. So
they've throttled us back into the stone.
So, we've been getting a lot of for us, watching different media, playing different games, all that stuff. It all gives us inspiration and ideas. So we're all storing that up for the future, and we're going to start writing again soon. Actually, we already started on the 3rd.
Yeah, supposedly our break from writing has still seen us start work on our next novel.
Yeah.
We never really actually seemed to stop writing because as we said, we used to do it for fun.
We actually like it.
Before it became a job.
We've started on the 3rd Anjasa, the Vixen series.
Yeah.
So this one should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a big kind of climax to the story arc that's been going on.
Yeah, so the first one was kind of Anjasa getting her mojo back and realizing that it's not good enough for her just to be a heathen for the rest of eternity.
Such a terrible mental image. Get your mojo back.
That's not how I meant it. And the second one is her kind of coming back into her own. Shut up. Coming back into her own and becoming, you know, the person she is and has just been kind of suppressing for a while. So the third one is going to be exploring more of her character, her backstory, and getting on with a lot of the plot climaxes, as Joshua said.
Yeah, second one was great though, I think.
Yeah.
He became a real boss.
It's
a boss
funny
ass
because
bitch, as someone might put it.
He's quoting Nicki Minaj at me.
I know what gets her going.
So it's actually one of the series where I kind of am sad that, like, you know, traditionally you kind of sell the first one for free and hope that that'll hook people to read more, but I kind of want to give the second one away for free because I feel that it's like one of our strongest stories, but that'd be just kind of confusing in the scheme of things.
It's like our Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Which was totally the best part of Star Wars.
Just so you all know.
Yeah. Don't argue with me on that.
If you have to argue, just argue with him.
The Dexter thing, go to town on her about that, but don't even try with me about Empire Strikes Back.
Nerd.
But yeah, and so what you're going to see from us, because...
Possibly Wildstar fanfiction.
Yeah, we started playing Wildstar, that's true. But in regards to our published work, because of this crackdown on us and our temp ban, mostly that is just, as we said, it seems to be a big reaction to they're getting tougher on indie authors because, you know, they're trying to clamp down on these
internet marketers.
Internet marketers, they're called. People just, you know, in it purely for callous financial reasons. They're stealing stuff, and some of them are even doing despicable things like just releasing the same story but changing like a character's name.
Yeah, I've heard of people releasing bundles of like 3 stories where 2 of the stories are the exact same word for word except the characters' names are changed. Yeah. Like, that's how little thought and energy and effort is being put into this, and this is what we're getting swept up with.
Yeah, so but they're cracking down on short stories for that. And so what you're going to see more from us then is longer works, more novels.
Which, I mean...
We love writing that.
Yeah, that's what we prefer writing. It's easier to make money off of writing erotic shorts because, of course, you can imagine that it takes a lot less time to write an erotic short.
Plus, erotic shorts are great for our sex life.
And they are amazing for our sex life, yeah. So, I mean, it's something that we're still going to do, and we still really like doing. Yeah. But novels have always been where our kind of heart lies. That's what we started writing back when we first started, like, writing in our own worlds.
Yeah.
Outside of fan fiction.
Yeah. Big, long, meaty novels.
Sprawling character maps and different zones and worlds and species and...
Yeah. There's not the same magnifying glass for censorship on novels.
Yeah, you can get away with more.
It's fine. So that's what we're going to be doing more.
It's obnoxious to me sometimes because, you know, I understand what they're going for, but when people say things like, oh, but look at Game of Thrones, look at all the stuff that he has in, like, you know, those books. Like, how can he sell those books? But it's like, sorry, there's a motorcycle going by.
Yes.
But it's like...
Someone with a small penis.
But it's like...
I'm not supposed to say that.
George R. R. Martin is writing, like, huge, like, 500-page novels, and the sex and the, like, incest and the rape, you know, it takes up a small fraction of the book. I mean, if you're looking at it percentage-wise, if you're looking at it, like, literary-wise, like, he is obviously contributing a lot more to literature and, like, the field of literature than somebody who's writing, like, you know, a Spank Me Daddy story. I don't understand. Like,
to me, I think there is a certain art that is not given enough appreciation for somebody who can write sex scenes over and over again to make them unique and interesting.
I absolutely agree, but, you know, in this society, in this world as we are right now, sex isn't very highly valued. It's looked down upon. It's seen as something low class. So, you know, you can't really make a grounded argument that you are contributing just as much to...
Yeah, we get a lot of flack from reviewers from book review websites because our romance and erotica tends to be, I think as one said, too cerebral. We try to have meaning and story, plot, and I said, like, you know, it's very good. Like, I don't know, a couple read recently reviews and said, you know, it's very good what we do, the themes and stuff like this. It said, however, they find it very unwelcome in their genres because they read romance or erotica, in another case, you know, for very specific purposes to feel good. Either, you know, romantically to go, oh, like, oh, I'm so happy they ended up together and they had a baby and everything's fine and happy, or because they want a spank book.
Yeah, all of my favorite romances, I actually did up a tally, and every single one of them, except for one, and that was only in a retcon, or, well, I guess not a retcon, but like an expanded upon, it is Veronica Mars, shut up. Every single one of the relationships ended with either the characters breaking up at the end, or one or both of the characters dying.
Yes.
These are my favorite romance novels. These are the romance novels that stick with me forever. And I mean, it goes back to, like, I'm sure it goes back before, but like the biggest, longest term relationship or example would of course be Romeo and Juliet. You know, the greatest love story of all time ends with both of them dead.
Yeah, it's the most famous, like, tale of romance ever. But, like, routinely, I get told by reviewers that, you know, you can't have a tragic romance.
Yeah.
It's not to be done. And that breaks the rules of the genre.
I mean, these things change all the time. Expectations change all the time. I think back in the 80s, there was a lot more appreciation for sad romances. I remember there being, like, a lot of, like, traditional romance novels that, like, had issues of, like, terminal illness and, you know, the partner, usually, like, the female who was dying of cancer or another illness, and then the male hero being there for her, supporting her, nurturing her, caring for her through this, like, emotionally trying time, and then, you know, she passes away or whatever. And I remember that being a fairly popular genre in romance novels. So I think it just comes and goes. I think I've read something.
Culture just changes all the time.
Yeah, I've read something that is actually tied to economic prosperity. And the more economically prosperous people are, the happier they want their entertainment to be. Yeah. And the more economically unstable people are, the more they flock to these very gritty, very, like, complicated
Because that's what I think of our stories. Is like, it's not that because we're not attracted necessarily to sadness or tragedy, but complicated characters and a complicated story.
I think one of the things that we were talking about was with the Game of Thrones series. We haven't read the books, so we're just watching the TV show.
Yeah, I've got literally over 1,000 books waiting for me to read on my tablet. I don't need to add more books that I'm enjoying the show.
Yeah.
I would in theory like to read the books, but...
I nitpick. When I read the books, like, I loved the first, like, 3 Harry Potter movies. And then I read all of the books, and after that, I don't think I enjoyed, like, a single Harry Potter movie, because I was just sitting there going, oh, this was different in the books, oh, it was more nuanced, oh, they changed this. I just nitpick. So I don't want to read the books, and I don't want to nitpick the show like that, because I'm enjoying the show. Yeah,
it's very, very hard to enjoy Lord of the Rings, despite how well, like, the first movie is. I have issues beyond, like, adaptation beyond the first one, but, you know, despite how well it was made, now, when I know that when Gandalf is telling Frodo that when he dies, he's going to go across the sea to live in, you know, the Undying Lands of the Elves and stuff like that, it's just like, no, Gandalf, you don't fucking tell that to Frodo, because that's not supposed to happen, because that's defying one of the major themes in our series. He is one of the mortal people. He dies. Nobody knows what happens. That's a central theme. You don't tell him he goes into an afterlife.
Yeah. So, when Josh and I were talking about the Game of Thrones the other day, he said that one of the, we were talking about it and saying basically one of the things that we think people are going to be really disappointed about when George R. R. Martin finishes the series is that they're going to realize that it's not finished and that it'll never be finished because he's not writing a series. He's writing,
It's the story of a world.
Yeah. It's a world. It doesn't just end. It doesn't just stop. It doesn't...
That's the vibe I get from
Yeah, you can't tie everything up. I mean, you might get to a point where, most of the climax is completed, but I don't think you'll ever get to a point where you're really happy with the ending because there's still going to be characters that you want to know more about, that you still want to follow, that you want to know more about.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stuff that we tend to write. We write a huge world where, we're glimpsing in on this group of characters at this time.
Yeah, I get the vibe from the show that, he's written a very convincing, a very realistic, a very well done world. And I don't think that he has in mind to write the kind of story that's going to be a neat little encapsulated thing that when it's done, all the loose ends are tied up and you feel like, yeah, that's the end of the story there now. Yeah. I can't help but get the feeling that, when the Game of Thrones itself, or whatever, I know that's just the name of one book and as opposed to how the show goes, but, when that's all over, the story of the world itself is very much not going to be done.
Yeah. There's going to be something else happen.
Yeah.
I mean, just like there was things that happened before the show and the novels started. There's a history there. There's culture. There's, backstory that you don't really ever get to see.
Glimpse and you hear, rumors about it, but you don't know entirely.
Yeah. And one of the things that always kind of gets me with reviews of the Vixen series is a lot of people say that they're very frustrated because they want to know more about Aunt Joss's backstory, and so they give it less stars because of that. And
well, firstly, there are other books that you could read.
Yeah. But
about her backstory, but yeah,
it's just I read a lot of Dungeons and Dragons books, for example, and for the characters that I love, I always want to know more about their backstory. I
don't see it as a fault.
Yeah, no.
To me, it's the opposite. If I'm reading a character in one book or even a trilogy, and I feel I know everything about this character or everything I would want to know about this character. That is not an interesting character. It's not a well done character.
Rider in that one Dungeons and Dragons series.
So boring.
He was just, there was nothing to him. I don't know, they tried to give him a story, I guess, but all I know, I can't remember anything about him other than he rode a griffin. And that was his character, and that was his backstory,
and that was his Two-Shoes who rode a griffin.
Yeah, it was just
why you would want to know anything else about it is beyond me.
But then, other characters, Kinnear Vok was one of my big heartthrobs, who was a Cambion demon guy, half demon.
Yeah.
I wanted to know more about him, and you got little glimpses here and there, but I was thirsty for more.
You can never have the whole story because you can't put a person's story into their entire story into a book. There's always going to be pieces missing.
Yeah. So
that goes for a well-done character too, I believe.
Yeah. So that's what I've always preferred. And I mean, as I said, everybody has different tastes. Some people as if I could fault somebody for wanting to read something that was happy and neat and tidy. Life is messy and complicated and confusing, so, I can totally understand wanting to escape from that, but it's just not what I prefer.
Yeah. And there we go.
Yeah, I think that's enough talking. That's an hour.
We've completely derailed ourselves from the topic at hand, enough times now. I think that it constitutes a full podcast.
Yeah. So, in the end, by our Darkness anthology.
Buy our book.
Our Darkness anthology, and support all of the wonderful authors and artists on the Darkness Erotica or Fantasy Erotica forums.
Yep.
If you
What
like
a great bunch.
Yeah. If you like erotic shorts, you can support our Patreon. And otherwise sign up for our newsletter, and we'll be giving out some freebies probably pretty soon. A certain handsome young man's birthday is coming up this weekend, so I think that we should probably celebrate with our fans.
Oh, me! Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, my birthday's coming up. Cool.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that, as usual, there's the July story writing challenge on the Darkness forum for any other writers who want to try their hand at that.
Yeah. That is typically a thing that is always going on every month.
And there's also like a bunch of role-playing threads up and available for any of you that have a hankering.
Yeah, the July challenge and the storyboards is actually gender swapping. The act of seeing life from the other side. You know, boy becomes girl, girl becomes boy, you know, something like that. And the bonus cue is we're so
Josh
prepared
is
for this.
failing. Glory hole.
Yeah, include a glory hole
Luminous body paint.
or some aspect of sci-fi.
Yeah. So, you know, if you want to test your writing talents and skills with a bunch of other awesome people, sign up for Darkness Fantasy Erotica.
It's not a contest, it's just a little...
It's like a fun
inspiration.
little contest thing.
There's no winner.
I know.
So how do you call it a contest, really?
It just is. Everybody's
It's a
winner.
challenge.
It's a challenge, whatever. Everybody's a winner.
Okay. Yeah.
Alright, bye.
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 That one's good enough.
Bye.